Alright, in today's video I want to focus on Noetics robotics and why their new humanoid marks a turning point in the wave of robotic innovation we're experiencing in China. In recent months, we've seen powerful advances in both software and hardware, with AI models capable of reasoning about physics and robots executing complex movements with remarkable stability. In this landscape, the Noetic Robotics project stands out for a simple yet ambitious idea, bringing a real humanoid robot to classrooms and homes at a consumer price point. Let me start with the Vumi robot. This is the robot here, designed for educational and home use, not for industrial loads or heavy tasks. It stands just over 90 centimeters tall and weighs about 12 kilos. Despite its size, it can walk, maintain balance, and even dance with a fluidity that's surprising for its category. The first videos show it with a stability typically associated with much more expensive machines. As we can see, it can perform backflips and costs around $1,370, falling below 10,000 yuan. A symbolic price barrier that opens a new market segment: small, lightweight, and affordable humanoid robot. The technical and product approach explains this lower cost. Noetic Robotics uses lightweight composite materials, an in-house motion control system, and a modular architecture. This combination reduces weight and complexity, simplifies maintenance and customization, and allows manufacturing at a cost previously unseen for bipedal robots capable of walking and performing dynamic movement. The model's stated goal isn't to replace industrial equipment, but to serve as a platform for learning, interaction, and companionship in educational and home settings. For autonomy, Vumi uses a battery with capacity over 3.5 amp hours and offers between 1 and 2 hours of use per charge, sufficient for class sessions, demonstrations, or guided activities. The user experience is designed for beginners with drag-and-drop visual programming, allowing children, students, and people without experience to create behaviors and routines without traditional coding. It also features voice interaction to function as a simple assistant, responding to commands and acting as an educational companion. The commercial calendar supports this strategy, with reservations planned between the Double 11 and Double 12 shopping campaigns. In China, from November 11th to December 12th is the country's peak consumption period, and the ideal window to generate buzz typical of a consumer electronics launch, this time applied to humanoid robotics. The team's background helps explain how they've advanced so quickly. The company was founded in September 2023 by a group from top universities, and in less than 2 years went from academic prototypes to a retail product costing under $1,500. Before Vumi, they had already marketed the N2 model with over 2,500 units sold and endurance milestones, like completing a half marathon for humanoids. This excitement gave them visibility and validated real demand for bipedal robots focused on learning and demonstration. There are also external signs of interest. An independent robotics media outlet released a clip showing Vumi walking and dancing. The structure is clear. While not matching the dexterity of larger models, its movement is remarkably smooth for its class and price. These public tests suggest an intention to expand adoption beyond trade shows and labs into classrooms and homes. I want to highlight why this matters in the broader context. While researchers develop AI systems giving robots physical intuition, models that predict, evaluate, and correct themselves through trial and error to align with physical laws, the other half of progress comes from reducing costs and simplifying real-world integration. Vumi fits into that second front by democratizing access to a functional, manageable humanoid for practical learning in robotics, motion control, perception, and basic planning. When educational centers can acquire and operate a bipedal robot for the price of a high-end electronic device, the educational and experimental impact multiplies. In short, I present Vumi as a concrete step toward bringing humanoids into classrooms and homes. A robot that walks, balances, and dances effectively for its category, can be visually programmed, responds to voice commands, offers 2 hours per charge, and sits at an unprecedented price point for what is a functional humanoid, not just a toy. With previous experience from the N2 and an ambitious reservation campaign aligned with peak consumer season, Noetic Robotics is positioned to launch the first wave of mass adoption in education and home use. That's the central move, bringing humanoid robotics from showroom to everyday life with a product designed from the ground up so more people can learn, experiment, and interact with it. Very well. Today we feel we're entering a different phase as we see signs pointing to a structural change in global employment, and the most visible trigger right now is what's happening at Amazon. The company confirmed office reductions of 14,000 positions in a recent round, with previous waves bringing the total to tens of thousands since 2022. For Spain, this adjustment affects around 100 employees in Madrid and Barcelona, and simultaneously, there's an even more radical announcement: 30,000 additional corporate cuts in a single week. about 10% of their administrative workforce. All this coincides with an internal plan projecting over 600,000 automated jobs by 2033 in the US alone. When we look at the corporate narrative, repeated over and over again, we see familiar concepts: being more agile, reallocating resources, aligning with more relevant strategic bets. And the practical translation is clear. Companies are shifting tasks from human workers to automated systems, and the label dominating all these decisions is artificial intelligence. We're not talking about an isolated experiment. Amazon acknowledges that AI is enabling them to operate with less staff and that investment in automation is central to their priorities. In many cases, language is used to soften the term automation, but at its core, that's exactly what it is. We know this transition isn't limited to one specific area. HR, marketing, operations, service personnel, everything falls within the impact zone. And not just there. There are office tasks and cognitive functions that can already be replicated or coordinated by automated systems, and we see that in technical departments, routine work is becoming replaceable. Administrative roles and basic data analysis are cited as examples of work that can now be handled by automated systems. What's happening in engineering is central to this shift. The agents orchestrating language models aren't mystical entities. They're software built by technical teams that can take complex instructions, break them into subtasks, delegate each step to a large model with precise guidance, collect responses, validate them, and deliver final result. This previously required people for analysis, writing, and design, but now an agent can break objectives into discrete steps, extracting data, identifying patterns, drafting content, and assembling the final product. And this orchestration capability is what begins to empty office functions. This isn't happening just at Amazon. We see ideological patterns in other large companies. In some cases, they admit reducing staff because new internal agents now handle those functions. Financial markets reward this approach, sending a strong signal to the rest of the sector. Automation becomes a clear competitive advantage. A key nuance is that some companies use AI revolution narratives to justify reorganizations also driven by pandemic expansion, labor costs, tariffs, or economic cycles. But despite these variables, AI remains the central axis determining where capital flows. Budget is being freed up to fund automation deployments, with the goal of investing in systems that promise massive efficiency gains and higher profit margin. This transition is comparable to installing advanced turbines in a giant factory. Sections are being dismantled to make space for more productive machines. The estimated impact is enormous, as Amazon employs over 1.5 million people globally and more than 1 million in the US alone. Internal plans discuss automating up to 75% of operations in certain centers and replacing over half of all positions in the US. This isn't a distant future scenario. The plan targets 160,000 jobs automated by 2027, with layoffs already happening now in human resources. Meanwhile, we observed hardware demonstrations representing this vision, smart glasses guiding deliveries with real-time instructions, and robotic arms that recognize objects and precisely reorganize packages from a single station. What matters for our profession is that two distinct future paths are emerging. Profiles that merely follow detailed routine tasks will become less necessary, while repetitive coding, basic documentation, and preliminary data analysis are now direct targets for AI agents already coordinating large models. However, demand is growing for those who can design these systems. Architecture, scalability, security, prompt engineering, data flows, limitation mitigation. The key shift is moving from just doing to thinking at the system level and defining the structure that orchestrates models and automation. For us, the message is clear. We're facing an era where automation no longer replaces just hands but decisions, and today we're seeing the practical start of that change. Artificial intelligence isn't an abstract concept. It's driving massive reorganizations. The job landscape is changing now, not in 10 years. The question we face is whether we want to be among those vulnerable to replacement or part of the group building the systems that displace tasks. Today we're focusing solely on GPT, and while many users are still exploring GPT-5, Sam Altman has already indicated that GPT-6 will be a major leap forward. In several meetings he stated that the jump from GPT-5 to GPT-6 will happen faster than the one between GPT-4 and GPT-5, and that people want real memory, AI that remembers who we are and how we work. According to him, that would be the central focus. This memory isn't about more RAM, but rather the system retaining information about our habits, style, tone, and preferences persistently, without starting from scratch each time we open a conversation. The idea is that the assistant wouldn't just be more powerful, but more continuous with what it has learned about us. The promise is real, continuous personalization and an AI that revolutionizes alongside us, opening up clear benefits. At work, it could remember how we respond to customers, what products we handle, or what style we use in emails. In our personal life, it could remember routines, habits, or goals, and in education, it could track our level and mistake. In other words, an assistant that doesn't reset. But this same memory also raises specific questions. Who manages that data? What's kept and what's deleted? And what if that memory fuels echo chambers that simply confirm what we already think? Beyond memory, GPT-6 is associated with possible adult functions behind age verification. The company itself has discussed enabling an adult mode for verified users with safeguards. Some connect this feature to the planned December rollout of full age verification, leading many to speculate about a launch that month. It's also mentioned that GPT-6 would offer more flexibility to customize the assistant's character, allowing users to make the tone more casual or more formal. Another recurring theme across multiple sources is autonomy. In official records, GPT-6 is mentioned in relation to developing and testing AI agents. Models today can already maintain autonomous tasks for over 30 hours, and GPT-6 could significantly advance this capability. This suggests agents capable of managing entire projects without constant human oversight. Another capability linked to GPT-6 is potentially having reasoning abilities similar to or better than the model that won gold at the Mathematics Olympiad. This would let anyone access a competitively capable model and achieve those kinds of results. And this is partly because some people claim that GPT-6 could be the first real step towards AGI or even its formal emergence. Regarding the launch, public statements cited in media suggest that GPT-6 could arrive before the end of 2025. There's even mention of the possibility it could arrive before the end of this year. The argument being that GPT-5's launch was rocky, the model selector was heavily criticized, and new infrastructure allows training these systems much faster. We've also heard that GPT-6 would be more powerful but less stable, with OpenAI developing new safety techniques in parallel, not yet knowing if complete control will be possible. Recent events also discussed research automation, mentioning plans for a fully automated researcher by March 2028, which could go well beyond AGI since automating research would mean creating a system more capable than the average human. They shared figures about committed infrastructure with plans to build enormous computing capacity over the coming years. Additionally, musical generation was mentioned in the GPT-6 trademark registration. They noted previous musical generation experiments from 2023 suggesting this could become another feature, though it doesn't appear to be a priority compared to memory and autonomy. For all these reasons, we're facing a potential historic leap. Persistent memory that doesn't reset, deep personalization, more autonomous agents, real scientific potential, and a possible release much sooner than expected. There's no definitive official confirmation, but several recent sources and statements have fueled speculation. Some believe it could be functional AGI, while others think it's just another incremental step. But everyone agrees the pace is extremely rapid, and all signs indicate GPT-6 is already in development and coming faster than we anticipated. So, anyway, tell me, what's your opinion on this? Leave it in the comments. Share your thoughts about GPT. Are you using ChatGPT? Are you interested in learning about AI? Let me know if you want me to cover any news and we'll continue. Let's start with a problem many of us face, especially in STEM fields. We open our digital notes to review math, and instead of seeing clear formulas, we find a mess of backslashes and brackets. Previously, we wasted time deciphering our own material instead of focusing on the concept. With the latest update to Notebook LM, that changes completely. Thanks to latex rendering, the system automatically converts that code into well-presented equations, looking like they're from a textbook anywhere in your study flow. No need to activate extra features or install extensions. Formulas display correctly when chatting with the assistant or generating study cards and quizzes. Why does this matter for our study session? Simple. By eliminating the hassle of interpreting symbols and hidden subscripts, we gain speed and accuracy. We read and comprehend faster, reduce silly errors from confusing variables or missing details, and strengthen visual recognition of expressions. Getting started is simple. First, we upload our materials, notes, PDFs, and transcripts, then ask the study resource assistant for flashcards or a quiz. And third, we study with perfectly formatted formulas. Some helpful tip: if you already have saved notes, re-uploading them applies the new formatting. We can remove add-ons that try to do the same thing partially. And when making cards, it's best to keep lengthy formulas on separate lines so they display perfectly. Now, beyond formulas, Notebook LM has also made a breakthrough in how it converts our sources into review-ready content. The audio overview is a summary and conversation format that has significantly improved in naturalness. It now allows interaction where we can ask questions to speakers based on our sources, which seems like a powerful new feature. This feature already existed, but now there's also the video overview, where with just one click, we get an explanatory video with narration, slides, and alignment of our details. As you can see, we have all kinds of resources like guides, scripts, quizzes, planners, audio files, and even diagrams, so we can study much more comfortably, all with just a couple of notes. In addition to the familiar text outputs like summaries or drafts, structured data tables are now available. Think about various industry reports. The system can extract metrics and organize them into rows and columns: revenue growth, market sizes, customer satisfaction, allowing sorting and filtering to compare at a glance. This is complemented by an in-depth research mode that, instead of just giving quick answers about uploaded content, can explore our sources more independently and add verified public information to deliver multi-layered documents, summaries, tables, and references. In the same vein, it can generate presentations as outputs, and another key improvement is goal-oriented functionality, where we can open notebook settings and briefly define our desired response style. Daily workflow management is also enhanced, letting us refresh chats, review conversation history, and save responses directly to notebook notes. Looking at the big picture, the direction is clear. We've moved from a tool that just summarized documents to a system that helps us think through our materials. All things considered, it's best to maintain two practices. First, organize our sources well. Clean folders, clear names, thematic grouping, because results improve when we start from an orderly foundation. And second, treat these functions as co-pilots. That means leveraging automation to free up time while still reviewing accuracy and adjusting focus when needed. Let's close by returning to our starting point. The simple experience of seeing a well-written equation without clutter transforms study quality. Add in more natural conversational summaries, one-click explanatory videos, self-building tables, and deeper research within the same environment, and the compound effect becomes obvious. As these tools reduce friction and automate repetitive tasks, we can devote more energy to understanding, connecting ideas, and better explaining what we learn. The question that this evolution leaves us is straightforward. If studying hurts less and yields more with these new tools, how will our approach to learning transform going forward? So that's it. Leave your opinions in the description and I'll see you in future updates. Today we want to focus solely on Gemini 3. During these days, specific data has emerged that clearly shows how Google is handling it internally and what the public release strategy appears to be. First, Google is already quietly testing it. Within AI Studio, internal AD tests are running, and direct references to something called Gemini Beta 3.0 Pro have been detected. This means it's being evaluated, and trials are already underway. We can't select it manually from the model list yet, but developers have spotted it discreetly in the back end, in sections tied to starter apps. This aligns with the long-term plan to unveil it during the Gemini at Work livestream, which would be the moment to publicly showcase its capabilities. The first people who interacted with it described something very clear. It excels at complex programming tasks, especially front-end development. In one test, it generated a complete SVG of a PlayStation 4 controller, well-drawn and virtually error-free. This isn't just text reasoning, it's genuine visual precision. When compared to Claude 4.5 Sonnet, Gemini 3's graphical output proved more accurate and faster. It's highly capable in speed, control, and code, with noticeably refined multimodal text-visual comprehension. Additionally, AI Studio's internal interfaces have begun showing changes. There's a new section called My Stuff that serves as storage for generated images, snippets, or code pieces you request. Another key point, Gemini 3 isn't arriving as a single model. There are two main variants in the code. Gemini 3 Pro, focused on deep reasoning, lengthy tasks, and complex thinking, and Gemini 3 Flash, designed for speed and immediate use. Internal records have revealed two key terms, deep think and agent mode. The first, deep think, refers to an architecture allowing more internal steps to solve multi-stage problems without losing track. The second, agent mode, introduces browser control, enabling real actions within a browser like searching for information or performing direct tasks. This move aligns with the autonomous capabilities of ChatGPT or Copilot, but within Google's ecosystem. The rollout won't happen all at once, but will follow a phased approach. First, enterprise access via Vertex AI this month, then developer access through cloud tiers between November and December, and general availability is expected by early 2026. The first entry points would be Android 17 and Google Search, along with Chrome and Workspace app integration. The goal seems to be testing real-world loads before rolling it out to millions of users at once if everything goes according to plan. Gemini 3 could push Google past 500 million active users before year's end. This keeps Google directly competing against OpenAI's next models like GPT-5 and Musk's lineup, Grok 4, Grok 5, GPT-6, and so on. But competition isn't just about reasoning ability anymore, but what complete ecosystem gets built around the model. Google is embedding Gemini in browsers, phones, and productivity apps, while OpenAI is betting on standalone applications. An SDK and its agent kit are different strategies with the same end goal: turning the model into a system that acts in the world, not just responds. That's what we know today about Gemini 3. They're already measuring it internally with evidence of its visual and code speed capabilities, detection of Pro and Flash mode names, and signs of multi-step reasoning. There are also hints of agent functions with browser control, and it's already outlined how it will be gradually released. Now we just need to see the exact moment when they publicly flip the switch. So that's it. Let me know what you think about this news, and I'll see you next time. These days we're seeing a deal worth $38 billion that's set to last at least 7 years. It's an alliance between OpenAI and Amazon, where Amazon will provide high-capacity servers, chips, CPUs, and latest generation NVIDIA GPUs through its Amazon Web Services infrastructure. Meanwhile, OpenAI will contribute its AI systems and expertise in operating cloud infrastructure. According to reports, this partnership has the potential to fundamentally transform cloud computing globally and accelerate AI development. This marks OpenAI's first cloud contract with AWS, announced right after OpenAI was freed from restrictions that previously limited it to a single provider for such agreement. The figure was described as being close to the amount of the $40 billion funding round led by SoftBank. This was interpreted as an indicator of how much additional computing capacity is currently being sought. It was also reported that OpenAI will have immediate access to hundreds of thousands of NVIDIA GPUs within Amazon's network. The operation has already begun functioning and is expected to be fully active by the end of next year. The first phase will use existing capacity before creating dedicated infrastructure specifically for OpenAI, similar to Amazon's arrangement with Anthropic. AWS announced they've already identified sites where facilities for these future models will be built. This information provided context for Amazon Web Services' record revenue projection for the quarter, pointing to $210 billion. Amazon had announced days earlier that high-volume agreements would be announced in October, and this pact was presented as one of them. It was mentioned that OpenAI had already appeared on other clouds like Oracle and Google, but it was emphasized that this is different. Until last week, Microsoft had a commercial right of first refusal. That right ended with the recent restructuring, opening the way for OpenAI to sign directly with Amazon without prior authorization. The analysis noted that OpenAI is developing a multi-cloud strategy to reduce risk, but also because it needs more computing capacity. In that same restructuring, it was noted that OpenAI committed to Azure for $250 billion, and it was mentioned that indirect calculations estimated OpenAI lost $12 billion. Sam Altman stated this creates additional pressure for OpenAI to go public, to address concerns about its ability to fulfill computing contracts already exceeding $1.4 trillion. It was highlighted that AWS infrastructure will support OpenAI's goals with immediately available capacity, demonstrating Amazon's advantage in handling massive AI workloads. This agreement means Microsoft will no longer be OpenAI's exclusive cloud provider. Finally, it was noted that this change raises questions on Wall Street because OpenAI still shows losses, and it's unclear how all these commitments will be funded. Overall, we're seeing a scenario where computing demand keeps growing. OpenAI diversifies its providers, Amazon strengthens its investor position, and begins building specific infrastructure for the next generation of AI models. These developments represent a significant shift that could transform cloud competition and processing capabilities in the global AI landscape. Very well, let's move on to the next news about Grok. For months, we've seen many new models take forever to release, and when they finally appear, they barely change anything. But with XAI, the pace has been different. Grok 1 appeared in late 2023, half a year after Grok 1.5 arrived with a huge context window and stronger reasoning abilities. 3 months later came Grok 2 with deep improvements in code, reasoning, and vision, plus an integrated image generator. Then, Grok 3 was trained with about 10 times more compute than Grok 2 on a massive cluster using 200,000 GPUs, and in July 2025, Grok 5 arrived, which XAI described as their most intelligent model with native tool use, integrated code interpreter, web search and training, 256K token API, and a voice mode that can analyze live camera feed. It's a sequence with qualitative leaps every few months, and well, today Grok 4 is what we have available on the website. Musk has indicated that Grok 5 will arrive before the end of 2025. That would mean just about 5 months after Grok 4. The expectation is that it will be another level up, not just an incremental update. Rumors point to much more advanced multimodality, combining text, image, audio, and video more naturally, closing visual comprehension gaps, and making video generation an integrated part of the model itself. The fact that XAI has brought in hardware experts from Dojo suggests they're optimizing not just software but the entire stack. Leaks also point to a strong focus on multimodal reasoning, not just image description or video generation. It's speculated that the model can interpret diagrams, understand them visually, generate code from what it sees, and then explain it in natural language. And behind all this is scale. Grok 5 would use the next generation of Colossus, described as infrastructure capable of achieving unprecedented energy levels. One study mentioned capabilities exceeding 200,000 H100 GPUs, an architecture designed for real-time data. According to this approach, more computing power would enable much more complex reasoning chains, coherence in very long dialogues, and new capabilities that smaller models could never demonstrate. And that's where Musk's statement comes in. He estimates there's a 10% probability that Grok 5 will be AGI or something indistinguishable from AGI. AGI. He also defined AGI as artificial intelligence that can do anything a capable human could do with a computer without reaching the combined intelligence of all humanity and its machine. He stated this version matching all of humanity would arrive in 3 to 5 years. Some believe it's unlikely Grok 5 will achieve AGI so quickly, as this would require a radically different form of reasoning. But others point to Grok 4's achievements in rankings like RC AGI, where it outperformed leading systems. The definition of AGI isn't singular. A recent article defined AGI as matching or exceeding a trained adult's cognitive versatility, creating an evaluation framework with dimensions like general knowledge, mathematics, reasoning, working memory, long-term memory, recall, and visual auditory processing. In that study, GPT-5 appeared in about 58% of cases and GPT-4 in about 27%. Within this framework, long-term memory was viewed as one of the major bottlenecks. It was also noted that models like Grok 4 had underdeveloped visual reasoning capabilities. Meanwhile, another discussion suggested AGI might be achievable without fully solving continuous learning across versions. But they also mentioned that an algorithm that self-generates problems, learns, and sets new goals would be the final piece. Amid all this, Grok 4 showed that with specific instructions and program synthesis, its ARC benchmark performance multiplied without new hardware. This sparked the idea that Grok 5 would not just scale in size, but optimize reasoning, reinforcement, and efficiency. AGI also launched Grok Fast with 2 million context tokens at a much lower cost than Grok 4, using reinforcement to decide when to think deeply and when to respond quickly. With Colossus 2 and the race for energy and GPUs, Grok 5 emerges as a bet on a different approach. More efficiency, better reasoning, and much shorter improvement cycles. The question remains that will this be enough for Grok 5 to become indistinguishable from general intelligence, or just another huge leap in power while still falling short of true AGI?